Success often begins in the quietest moments. It does not always arrive with announcements, attention, or the need for everyone to know what is happening behind the scenes. Real success grows like a seed beneath the soil, hidden from the world while it develops strength, builds roots, and prepares for the moment when it finally rises above the surface. A seed does not demand recognition while it is growing, and it does not need applause to continue its journey. It simply focuses on becoming what it was meant to become. The same principle applies to our goals, our dreams, and the ambitions we carry within us. Yet, many people struggle with the idea of moving silently. We often feel the urge to share what we are working on, what we are planning, and where we hope to go. Maybe it comes from a desire for encouragement, recognition, or approval. Maybe there is a small part of us that wants others to see our potential before we have even proven it. Saying, "I'm building something great," or "I'm about to change my life," can feel exciting. Hearing people respond positively can create a temporary feeling of success. But there is a hidden danger in this habit that many people overlook. The more we talk about our plans, the more we can unintentionally reduce the energy needed to achieve them. It sounds strange, but sharing too much too soon can weaken the very motivation that pushes us forward. There is a difference between having an idea and bringing that idea to life. An idea is fragile in its early stages. It needs attention, patience, and consistent effort. When we expose it too early to opinions, criticism, distractions, and outside expectations, we risk damaging something that has not yet become strong enough to survive. Over the years, in business, personal growth, and human behavior, this pattern appears again and again. Many people have incredible ideas and meaningful goals. They have dreams that could completely transform their lives. They begin with passion and excitement, but instead of quietly working toward their vision, they start explaining it to everyone around them. They describe what they are going to achieve, how successful they will become, and how different their future will look. At first, this feels motivating. But slowly, something changes. By constantly talking about the future, people sometimes create the feeling that they have already accomplished something. The brain begins to receive a small reward from the attention and encouragement they receive from others. They experience a sense of achievement without actually completing the difficult work required to make the dream real. The excitement of telling people about the goal can replace the discipline needed to pursue it. The dream still exists, but the urgency begins to disappear. This is one of the reasons success often loves silence. Not because success is mysterious or because people should hide everything they do, but because growth requires protection. In the early stages, your goals need a focused environment where they can develop without unnecessary interference. A young plant cannot survive if it is constantly disturbed before it has the chance to grow strong. In the same way, a new ambition needs time, effort, and concentration before it is exposed to the world. Some people argue that sharing your goals is helpful because it creates accountability. And there is truth in that. Accountability can be powerful when it comes from the right people and happens at the right stage. Having someone trustworthy who supports you, challenges you, and helps you improve can make a major difference. But sharing your plans with everyone is not the same as creating healthy accountability. Not every person who hears your vision will understand it, and not everyone who gives an opinion will have the knowledge or experience to guide you. Sometimes people respond to new ideas with doubt, not because they want you to fail, but because they cannot see what you see. They may question your ability, point out risks, or remind you of others who tried something similar and failed. Their words may not be intentionally harmful, but they can still influence your mindset. If you constantly hear reasons why something might not work, eventually you may begin to question yourself. Doubt can enter quietly, and once it settles in, it can weaken your confidence and slow your progress. This does not mean you should ignore all feedback or reject advice from others. Growth requires learning, and wise people understand the value of guidance. The important lesson is to be selective. Protect your vision in its beginning stages. Share your goals with people who genuinely want to help you grow, people who can provide useful insight rather than unnecessary noise. A mentor, a trusted friend, or someone with experience in your field can offer valuable perspective. But even then, there is wisdom in keeping some details private until your foundation is stronger. There is also another powerful advantage to working quietly, the element of surprise. When you spend months or even years building something without constantly announcing it, the final result becomes far more impactful. Imagine someone working privately on a project, improving their skills, solving problems, and overcoming challenges without seeking attention. Then one day, they reveal what they have created. The reaction is different because people are seeing results, not promises. Results have a different kind of power. Words can create expectations, but actions create proof. When people only hear what you plan to do, they can only imagine your potential. But when they see what you have actually accomplished, there is no need for explanation. The work itself becomes the message. I once knew a young man who dreamed of starting his own business. He had endless ideas and incredible enthusiasm. Whenever he had the chance, he would tell people about his plans, explaining how successful he was going to become and how his life was about to change. Everyone listened and encouraged him in the beginning. They appreciated his ambition and admired his confidence. But as time passed and no real progress appeared, people started becoming uncertain. Months went by, but the business never moved forward. The more he talked about what he was going to do, the less people believed he would actually do it. Eventually, something even more damaging happened. He started losing belief in himself. The excitement that once pushed him forward slowly disappeared because he had spent more energy describing the dream than building it. Now compare that with another person who took a completely different approach. A farmer from the Midwest had a vision of transforming his small family farm into a successful and thriving operation. Instead of announcing his plans everywhere, he quietly began working. He studied successful methods, learned new techniques, improved his process, and focused every day on making progress. He did not need constant attention or approval because his priority was not being seen. His priority was becoming better. When the time came to present the results of his work, people were amazed by what he had achieved. They asked how he managed to create such success from a small beginning. His answer was simple: he worked when nobody was watching. He understood that progress does not come from constantly explaining your goals. It comes from consistent action, patience, and dedication. The lesson is clear. The less energy you spend seeking validation, the more energy you have available to build. The less time you spend proving your intentions, the more time you have to create real results. Success is not measured by how many people know your plans. It is measured by what you accomplish when the talking ends and the work begins. The world is already filled with noise. Everywhere we look, there are opinions, advice, comparisons, and distractions competing for our attention. When you share your dreams too freely, you invite that noise into something that requires peace and focus. A goal that once felt clear inside your mind can quickly become surrounded by outside voices, and before you realize it, you are no longer moving with confidence. Instead, you are trying to answer questions, defend your choices, and explain your decisions to people who may not even understand your vision. Think about what happens when you tell someone about a major goal you have. Maybe you tell them you want to start a business, improve your health, write a book, or completely change your lifestyle. Sometimes people respond with excitement and encouragement, and that support can feel amazing. But many times, the response is not exactly what you hoped for. You might hear questions like, "Are you sure this is the right decision?" Or, "Do you really think you can make that work?" Or, "I knew someone who tried something similar and failed." These comments may seem small, but they can have a powerful effect. A single negative opinion may not destroy your confidence, but repeated exposure to doubt can slowly change the way you see your own abilities. The problem is not that others always want you to fail. Often, people simply judge your possibilities based on their own experiences, fears, and limitations. They see what is difficult because they have never seen what is possible for you. There is another challenge that comes with sharing your plans too early: comparison. Once people know what you are trying to achieve, they may begin comparing your journey to someone else's path. They may tell you what worked for them or what they think you should do. While advice can sometimes be useful, too much outside input can make you lose connection with your own strategy. Every person's journey is different, and what works for one person may not work for another. Then there are people who may not openly criticize you but still carry negative energy toward your ambition. Sometimes your goals remind others of the things they never pursued themselves. Your determination can make them uncomfortable because it highlights their own hesitation. They may not directly tell you to stop, but their lack of support, subtle comments, or dismissive attitude can still affect your motivation if you allow it. This is why discretion becomes a powerful tool. Keeping your plans private creates a protected environment where your ideas can develop without unnecessary pressure. It is like creating a greenhouse for your dreams. A greenhouse does not stop plants from eventually facing the outside world. Instead, it gives them the right conditions to grow strong before they are exposed to harsh weather. Your goals deserve the same level of care in their early stages. When you protect your plans, you also protect your focus. Focus is one of the most valuable resources you have because success requires concentrated energy. A person with average talent but strong focus can often achieve more than someone with great talent and scattered attention. The ability to stay committed to one direction, despite distractions and opinions, is what separates people who finish from people who constantly start but rarely complete. Momentum is created through consistent action. Every small step you take toward your goal builds confidence and creates forward movement. One productive day leads to another. One completed task makes the next task easier. Over time, these small actions combine into something much larger. This is how success is built, not through one dramatic moment, but through countless quiet decisions made when nobody else is paying attention. However, talking about your plans too soon can interrupt this momentum. Instead of spending your energy doing the work, you begin spending energy explaining the work. You start preparing answers for questions people ask. You begin defending your choices. You shift your attention from creating progress to convincing others that your progress matters. Slowly, your focus moves away from your goal and toward other people's reactions. It is similar to trying to drive a car while constantly stopping to explain your destination to everyone around you. You may still move forward, but your progress becomes slower because you keep interrupting your own journey. The person who remains focused on the road will eventually reach the destination faster than the person who spends all their time announcing where they are going. I want to share another example that shows the power of quiet progress. A friend of mine once decided to write a book. Writing had always been a personal dream of his, and he wanted to turn that dream into reality. Instead of telling everyone about his plan, he created a simple routine. Every day, he committed himself to writing 500 words. He did not announce his goal publicly. He did not constantly talk about his progress. He simply worked. Day after day, he sat down and wrote. Some days were easy, and some days were difficult, but he continued because he was focused on the process rather than the attention. Months passed, and eventually, he completed the manuscript. Only then did he share his achievement with a small group of people he trusted. Their reaction was genuine admiration. They were impressed not only because he had written a book but because he had accomplished something meaningful without needing constant recognition along the way. He had proven something important. Discipline becomes stronger when it is not dependent on outside approval. Later, when the book was published, its success came from the quality of the work itself. It was not successful because of months of announcements or because he convinced people to believe in him. It succeeded because he had created something valuable. The results spoke louder than any explanation ever could. Now compare that with another person who had a similar dream of becoming a writer. This person also had passion and ideas, but instead of creating a consistent writing habit, he spent most of his time discussing what he planned to do. He would share possible topics, explain future chapters, and ask people for opinions on every small detail. At first, this seemed productive because he was constantly engaged with his dream. But slowly, something happened. The more he talked, the less he actually wrote. His energy went into conversations rather than creation. He became more focused on how others viewed his idea than on building the idea itself. Eventually, the project disappeared because the excitement of discussing the dream replaced the discipline required to complete it. This difference reveals an important truth. Action creates confidence, while excessive talking often creates hesitation. When you take action, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Every completed step becomes evidence that you can continue. But when you remain only in the planning stage, you stay trapped in imagination, constantly thinking about what could happen without creating the conditions for it to happen. Keeping your plans private does not mean you are hiding from people. It does not mean you believe you are better than others or that you should never accept help. It simply means you understand the value of protecting your attention. Your dreams are important, and not every person needs access to every detail of your journey. When you plant a garden, you do not invite everyone to walk across the soil before anything has grown. You protect the ground, provide the right conditions, and allow the plants to develop. Only after they become strong do you invite others to appreciate what you have created. Your goals work the same way. Give them time. Give them effort. Give them the space they need to become real. The strongest success stories are often built in silence. Behind every visible achievement, there are countless invisible hours of work, learning, failure, adjustment, and persistence. People usually see the final result, but they rarely see the quiet process that created it. That process is where true growth happens. So the next time you set an important goal, consider resisting the urge to immediately announce it. Instead, write it down, create a plan, and begin taking action. Allow yourself to build without pressure. Allow yourself to improve without judgment. The goal is not to impress people with what you intend to do. The goal is to surprise yourself with what you are capable of accomplishing. There is something deeply powerful about moving through life without constantly seeking attention for every step you take. When you work quietly, you remove a heavy burden that many people do not even realize they are carrying, the burden of other people's expectations. The moment you announce your plans, you often create a silent pressure around yourself. Suddenly, people know what you said you would do. They may remember your words, they may ask about your progress, and they may expect a certain outcome. Even when they have good intentions, that attention can create unnecessary stress. Success is rarely a perfect straight line. Most meaningful achievements come through a process of learning, adjusting, failing, improving, and trying again. There are moments when you will question yourself. There are moments when your original plan will need to change. There are moments when you will take a step backward before moving forward. When you are constantly sharing your journey with others, these normal challenges can feel much heavier because every mistake seems like something you must explain. But when you keep your plans private, you give yourself permission to grow naturally. You allow yourself to make mistakes without worrying about how others will react. You can experiment, change direction, and learn valuable lessons without feeling like you have disappointed an audience. This freedom creates a healthier environment for progress because your focus remains on improvement rather than appearance. Many people underestimate the importance of having a private space where they can develop. In the early stages of any goal, uncertainty is normal. An entrepreneur testing a new idea, an artist developing a new skill, or a person changing their lifestyle all experience moments of doubt. These moments are not signs of failure. They are simply part of the process. But if you constantly expose these unfinished stages to outside opinions, you may begin judging yourself before you have given yourself enough time to succeed. This is why silence can become a form of strength. It allows you to connect more deeply with your own motivation. When nobody is watching, you discover whether you truly want something or whether you only wanted the recognition that came with achieving it. There is a big difference between pursuing a goal because it matters to you and pursuing a goal because you want others to admire you. External approval can be powerful, but it is not a stable source of motivation. If your motivation depends completely on praise from others, then criticism can easily destroy your confidence. But when your motivation comes from within, you become much more resilient. You continue working even when nobody notices. You continue improving even when there is no applause. That kind of discipline creates lasting success. Some people believe that keeping your plans private means you're limiting yourself because feedback from others is necessary. And feedback truly is valuable. No successful person grows completely alone. Learning from experienced people, listening to advice, and accepting constructive criticism are important parts of improvement. However, timing matters. Not every stage of your journey requires outside opinions. When an idea is still forming, it needs protection and attention. When a project is still fragile, it needs your full focus. Once you have built something meaningful and created a strong foundation, then feedback becomes much more useful because people are responding to something real rather than an idea that only exists in your mind. I once worked with someone who had an incredible ability to recognize opportunities. He could look at ordinary situations and see possibilities that other people ignored. His mind was always creating new ideas, and many of them had genuine potential. But he had one weakness that repeatedly held him back. He shared his ideas too quickly. Whenever he thought of a new concept, he immediately told people about it. He would explain the details, discuss how it could succeed, and describe what he planned to do next. At first, this seemed like confidence and enthusiasm. But over time, a problem became clear. By revealing his ideas before taking action, he was giving away the advantage of being the person who executed them. Sometimes other people would hear his concepts and move faster. They would take inspiration from his ideas and turn them into reality before he had even started. The problem was not that his ideas lacked value. The problem was that he spent too much energy describing possibilities instead of building results. Now compare that with another businessman I knew. He was quiet, humble, and rarely discussed what he was working on. Some people underestimated him because he did not constantly talk about his goals. He was not interested in creating an image of success. He was interested in creating actual success. While others were making announcements, he was studying, improving, planning, and executing. He focused on the details that most people ignored. He spent his time building systems, solving problems, and making progress. Then, when he finally introduced his work to the world, it was already developed, polished, and prepared. People were impressed because they saw the difference between promises and performance. He did not need to convince anyone that he was capable because the evidence was right in front of them. His results became his introduction. His achievements became his advertisement. This leads to one of the most important principles of success. Results are always more powerful than words. Anyone can describe a dream. Anyone can explain a plan. Anyone can make promises about the future, but results require discipline, patience, and commitment. Results cannot be created through conversation alone. Think about the people you admire most. Often, they are not the people who constantly announce what they are going to do. They are the people who quietly create something valuable. Their actions create trust because they demonstrate consistency. They do not need to tell everyone they are working hard because their accomplishments reveal the truth. Your actions create a ripple effect. When you consistently improve yourself and produce meaningful results, people naturally begin to notice. Respect comes not from how loudly you speak about your intentions, but from how seriously you pursue them. The world pays attention to achievement because achievement cannot be ignored forever. Another reason to protect your plans is the importance of focus. Focus is one of the rarest and most valuable abilities in modern life. There are endless distractions competing for your attention. Social media, opinions, trends, and constant communication can easily pull you away from what truly matters. When too many people know about your goals, you create more opportunities for distraction. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a suggestion. Everyone has a different perspective. While some of these perspectives may be helpful, too many voices can create confusion. Instead of moving forward with confidence, you begin changing direction every time someone offers a new idea. A clear vision can become unclear when too many people try to shape it. Imagine trying to build something while dozens of people are giving you different instructions at the same time. Even if everyone wants to help, the result can become confusion instead of progress. This is why protecting your focus is so important. The fewer unnecessary voices you allow into your process, the easier it becomes to stay connected to your original purpose. You can listen when guidance is needed, but you do not have to invite everyone into your decision-making process. Your energy is limited. Your attention is limited. Your time is limited. Successful people understand this, which is why they are careful about where they invest these resources. They know that every conversation, every explanation, and every attempt to gain approval takes energy away from the actual work. Moving in silence allows you to direct that energy toward growth. It allows you to build momentum without interruption. It allows you to create something meaningful before the world begins watching. The most powerful achievements often come from people who spent years working quietly before anyone noticed. They were not invisible because they lacked ambition. They were invisible because they were focused. They understood that the foundation of success is not attention. It is commitment. When the time finally comes to reveal what you have built, the impact is greater because your success is supported by reality. You are no longer asking people to believe in your potential. You are showing them the evidence of your effort. And that is the true power of silence. It is not about hiding your dreams from the world. It is about giving those dreams the space they need to become something real. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped feeling the need to announce every goal before you achieved it. Imagine starting a new project, building a new habit, learning a new skill, or working toward a major personal transformation without immediately telling everyone around you. Imagine having the freedom to work quietly, improve privately, and focus completely on the process instead of worrying about how others perceive your journey. This is where the real power of keeping your plans to yourself becomes clear. It gives you the ability to operate on your own terms. You are no longer trying to prove that your idea is valuable before it has had the chance to develop. You are no longer spending your energy convincing people that your goal is possible. Instead, all of that energy goes into the one thing that truly matters, making progress. Many people waste valuable time trying to create the appearance of success before they have created the foundation of success. They focus on telling people what they are building instead of actually building it. They want recognition before results. They want respect before they have earned it. But true confidence does not come from being praised for what you plan to do. It comes from knowing that you have done the work required to achieve something meaningful. There is a difference between being seen as successful and actually becoming successful. The first one depends on other people's opinions. The second one depends on your own discipline and commitment. When you chase attention too early, you risk becoming more focused on your image than your improvement. You start protecting the story you have told others instead of protecting the work that needs to be done. This is why silence can be liberating. It removes the pressure of performing for an audience. You no longer have to pretend that everything is going perfectly. You no longer have to explain every obstacle or justify every change in direction. You can simply focus on becoming better. Every great achievement involves uncertainty. A person starting a business does not know every challenge they will face. Someone writing a book does not know every problem they will encounter during the process. A person transforming their life does not know every obstacle waiting ahead. Growth requires flexibility, and flexibility becomes easier when you are not constantly trying to maintain a public image. When you move quietly, you create room for experimentation. You can test ideas, learn from mistakes, and make adjustments without fear of judgment. You can change your approach without worrying that someone will say, "But you said you were going to do it another way." Your journey belongs to you, and you have the freedom to shape it as you learn. This does not mean you should avoid all responsibility. Responsibility is important. Discipline is important. Having people who support you can be extremely valuable. But there is a difference between healthy accountability and unnecessary exposure. Healthy accountability helps you move forward. Unnecessary exposure creates pressure that can slow you down. The key is understanding who deserves access to your plans and when they deserve that access. Wisdom is not about sharing everything with everyone. Wisdom is knowing what to share, who to share it with, and when the timing is right. Think about valuable things in life. We protect things that matter. We protect our health, our finances, our personal information, and our relationships. We understand that not everything valuable should be placed in public view. Your dreams deserve the same level of protection, especially when they are still developing. A dream in its early stage is vulnerable. It needs attention, patience, and consistent effort. If you expose it to too much criticism or too many opinions before it becomes strong, you may lose confidence in something that could have become successful. Sometimes the biggest threat to a great idea is not failure itself. It is giving up before the idea has had a chance to grow. There is also a psychological advantage to keeping your goals private. When you stop seeking external validation, you become more connected to your own reasons for pursuing something. You begin asking yourself better questions. Do I really want this? Does this goal align with my values? Am I willing to work for this even if nobody notices? These questions are important because they separate genuine ambition from temporary excitement. Many people enjoy talking about success, but fewer people enjoy the daily discipline required to create it. Silence reveals your true commitment because it forces you to continue without immediate rewards. When nobody is watching, your character is being developed. You learn patience. You learn discipline. You learn how to stay committed without needing constant encouragement. These qualities become the foundation that allows success to last. There is a famous difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation often appears when things feel exciting. Discipline continues when things become difficult. Talking about a goal can create temporary motivation because it feels exciting to imagine success. But quietly working toward that goal builds discipline because it requires action even when there is no applause. This is why many people start strong but fail to finish. They enjoy the beginning stage where they can talk about possibilities and receive encouragement. But when the difficult work begins, the attention disappears, and so does their motivation. They were more attached to the feeling of having a goal than the process of achieving it. People who succeed understand that the process matters more than the announcement. They know that every day of effort is building something, even if nobody sees it yet. They are willing to work in silence because they understand that growth happens before recognition arrives. A farmer does not dig up seeds every day to check whether they are growing. They trust the process. They provide the right conditions, continue their work, and wait for the results to appear. Constantly disturbing the process would only damage the growth they are trying to create. Your goals require the same patience. You cannot rush every stage of development. Some things need time before they become visible. Some improvements happen internally before they appear externally. Just because people cannot see your progress does not mean progress is not happening. The quiet moments are often where the biggest transformations occur. They are the moments when you are learning, practicing, correcting mistakes, and developing the skills necessary for future success. These moments may not receive attention, but they are the moments that create everything people eventually admire. So instead of asking, how can I make people notice what I am doing, ask a more powerful question, what can I do today to become better? Instead of focusing on proving yourself to others, focus on improving yourself for your own future. The goal is not to hide forever. The goal is to build something strong enough that it no longer needs explanation. Eventually, there comes a time when your results naturally speak. When your work becomes visible, people do not need a long explanation because the evidence is already there. That is the beauty of quiet success. It does not depend on promises. It does not depend on attention. It does not depend on convincing people to believe in you. It depends on consistent action, patience, and the courage to continue even when nobody is watching. The person who works quietly today often becomes the person everyone notices tomorrow. Not because they demanded attention, but because they created something worth paying attention to. The world respects results because results cannot be ignored. Success does not need constant announcements. It does not need permission. It does not need a crowd cheering at every step. It needs dedication, focus, and the willingness to do the work when there is no audience. When you understand this, you begin to see silence differently. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is preparation. Silence is where ideas become plans, where plans become actions, and where actions become achievements. Protect your focus. Protect your energy. Protect the early stages of your dreams. Give yourself the space to grow without unnecessary pressure. Because one day, when the results finally appear, the strongest statement you can make will not be what you say about your success. It will be the success itself. The idea of keeping your plans private is not about hiding your ambitions from the world or refusing to accept help from others. It is about understanding the value of your energy, your attention, and your focus. It is about recognizing that every dream begins as something fragile and uncertain, something that requires protection before it becomes strong enough to stand on its own. A small idea in your mind can become something extraordinary, but only if you give it the right conditions to grow. Just like a seed needs the right environment, water, and patience before it becomes a strong plant, your goals need dedication, consistency, and time before they can produce meaningful results. If you constantly expose your dreams to outside pressure before they are ready, you risk damaging the very thing you are trying to build. This is why silence is not a sign of weakness. It is often a sign of wisdom. A person who chooses to work quietly understands that progress does not require constant recognition. They understand that the most important conversations are sometimes the ones they have with themselves, asking whether they are committed, whether they are improving, and whether they are willing to continue even when nobody notices. When you stop searching for approval, something powerful happens. You begin developing confidence that comes from within rather than from the reactions of others. You no longer need people to constantly tell you that you are capable because your own actions become proof. Every small accomplishment builds trust in yourself. Every challenge you overcome strengthens your belief that you can handle the next one. This kind of confidence is different from arrogance. Arrogance needs attention because it depends on being recognized. True confidence does not need to announce itself. It is calm. It is patient. It comes from knowing that you are doing the work necessary to become better. Many people spend years trying to convince others that they have potential. They explain their plans, defend their choices, and seek approval from people who may never fully understand their vision. But the truth is that you do not need to convince everyone. You only need to commit yourself to the process. The people who create meaningful success are often not the loudest people in the room. They are usually the ones who spend more time creating than explaining. They understand that every hour spent talking about the future is an hour that could have been spent building it. There is a certain freedom that comes from knowing your goals belong to you before they belong to anyone else. Before the world understands your vision, you must understand it yourself. Before others believe in your ability, you must develop the discipline to believe in your own effort. This is why quiet action is so powerful. It allows you to build a relationship with your goals based on commitment rather than attention. You are no longer working because people are watching. You are working because the goal matters to you. Think about the difference between someone who talks about becoming successful and someone who spends years developing the habits required for success. The first person may sound impressive for a moment, but the second person creates lasting results. Words can inspire people temporarily, but consistent action changes lives. Your habits determine your future more than your announcements ever will. The small decisions you make every day create the foundation for everything you eventually achieve. The hours spent learning, practicing, improving, and solving problems are the real building blocks of success. And many of those moments happen in complete silence. They happen early in the morning when nobody is watching. They happen late at night when there is no applause. They happen during difficult periods when quitting would be easier than continuing. Those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments that separate people who only dream from people who achieve. Success is not created when everyone is paying attention. Success is created when you are willing to keep going even when nobody knows what you are working toward. Of course, there will eventually be a time to share your work. There will be a time to introduce your creation, celebrate your progress, and allow others to see what you have built. But that moment becomes much more meaningful when it is supported by real achievement. There is a major difference between saying, "One day I will do this," and being able to say, "I did it." The first one is a possibility. The second one is a reality. And reality always carries more power than promises. When your results finally appear, you will not need to explain yourself. You will not need to defend your choices. You will not need to convince people that your effort was worthwhile. The evidence will already be visible. This is the reward of working in silence. Not only do you achieve the goal, but you also develop the person capable of achieving it. You become more disciplined, more patient, and more confident. The journey changes you before the result ever arrives, so the next time you create a goal, resist the temptation to immediately announce it. Give yourself permission to build privately. Write down your vision. Create a plan. Take consistent steps. Focus on the work instead of the attention. Ask yourself whether you would still pursue this dream if nobody knew about it. Would you still continue if there were no likes, no praise, and no recognition? If the answer is yes, then you have discovered something valuable. You are pursuing the goal for the right reason. The strongest motivation does not come from being seen. It comes from knowing that what you are building matters. It comes from having a purpose strong enough to continue even when the journey becomes difficult. Remember, success does not need to make noise. A tree does not grow stronger by announcing every inch of its growth. It simply continues growing until one day everyone can see what was happening beneath the surface all along. Your dreams are similar. They do not need constant attention. They need consistent care. They need patience. They need discipline. They need your full commitment. Protect your ideas when they are young. Protect your focus when distractions appear. Protect your energy from unnecessary conversations that take you away from the work that matters. Let people see the results instead of hearing endless promises. Let your achievements introduce you instead of your intentions. Let your actions become the proof of your dedication. Because in the end, success is not measured by how many people heard about your plans. It is measured by what you were willing to do when nobody was watching. The quiet worker often becomes the person everyone respects. The person who stays focused often becomes the person everyone follows. The person who builds without seeking attention often creates something that lasts. So embrace the power of silence. Use it as a tool for growth, a space for improvement, and a foundation for achievement. Move with patience. Work with discipline. Trust the process. One day, when your success finally stands in front of the world, people might ask how you did it. They might wonder when everything changed. They might be surprised by the results they see. And your answer will be simple. You worked when nobody was watching. You stayed focused when nobody was applauding. You wait quietly until your results had no choice but to speak for themselves.